I would like to call Mr. Vijay Kumar Sharma, who is also the chief guest of the event, to the stage and enlighten us.
Actually, under Factories Act, you know that presentation is always very long, but here because I have been giving a slot of about 30 minutes, so I thought that the smaller presentation would do. So we'll be talking on occupational safety and health provision under the Factories Act. Friends, we are meeting at a time, you know, that when India is already in the process of adopting codes, and one of the codes, you know, on occupational safety and health and working condition 2020 is already, you know, has already been passed by both the houses of the parliament and is in the process of being adopted. But I think that when the next government takes over after the elections, so then I think it will come and it will be in operation. So Factories Act 1948, friends, you know, is one of the most comprehensive piece of legislation that our country has ever enacted. This was one legislation which was enacted first in 1881 when India was being ruled by the British, and since then, you know, it has traversed its journey till 1947 when we became independent, and we adopted our own Factories Act 1948, which was passed by both the houses of the parliament, and it was rechristened as Factories Act 1948. And it was enforced with effect from 23rd of September 1948. After that, you know, it has traversed its journey. You know, we had worst ever industrial disaster in India when methyl isocyanate leaked out from Union Carbide plant of Bhopal, killing over 2,800 people and rendering more than 50,000 people, you know, languishing with diseases which are incurable, and still they are, I mean, under treatment. Anyway, so we'll be talking on the important legislation that provide for regulation, better work environment. These are the legislation. I'll be a little bit faster, you know. As I said, you know, the Factories Act is a social legislation. Techno-social legislation. You know, another techno-social legislation you may be knowing is Building and Other Construction Workers Act, which is being operated by the Factories Inspectorate as well as by the Labour Inspectorate together. The technical side by the Factories Inspectorate and the non-technical side by the Labour Inspectors. It was, as I told, it was initially enacted in 1881. It enshrines provision relating to health, safety and welfare. It's a central legislation in extent to the whole country, and power to make rules is with the states. Why? Because so that, you know, the local condition prevailing in the states may be reflected in the factory rules. That's why the power to make rules has been given to the states. And DG Fasli is the prime body, that Director General Factory Advice Services and Labour Institute Mumbai, which actually makes model rules, circulates it among the Factories Inspectorate, who adopt it, you know, after getting the approval of the law department and all that. The procedure also, you know, what the procedure for adoption of the rules is. The model rules framed by the government, they are circulated. Then the Chief Inspector of Factories of the state, after examining them, he issues a draft notification in the official gazette, inviting objection and suggestion from the people who are likely to be affected, giving 45 days time to file their objections and suggestions. After 45 days, if no objection suggestions are received, the file is sent to the Chief Secretary and Lieutenant Governor. In the states, actually, they place the rules before the Legislative Assembly for their approval. But in Delhi, because you know that we have Lieutenant Governor and we have Chief Secretary and Secretary Labour, so we through them we actually get them passed, and thereafter they are adopted in the final, and they become, I mean, the final rules which we have to enforce. This is one slide which have hazardous work kill more people than war. As many as 6,000 people are killed in hazardous industries world over. Some 6,000 workers a day, or 9 every 15 seconds, die from occupational accidents and diseases. That shows us how important the topic of occupational safety and health is for us. These are major industrial disasters. I think you all know about them. Please. They are major industrial disasters. Article 42, 246 and Schedule 7 of the Constitution of India. Next one, please. National Policy on Safety, Health and Environment at Workplace. You know that ILO, International Labour Organization, we are the founder member of the International Labour Organization, and according to them, every member state would enact a health and safety policy. What is the idea of that is, so that, you know, the countries who have adopted occupational safety and health, they are, you know, So our government also, in line with the recommendation of the ILO, we also framed our national policy on safety, health and environment at workplace in 2009. And that the salient feature of that are that is for securing the health and strength of the employees, men and women, that the tender age children are not abused, the citizens are not forced by economic necessity to enter a vocation unsuited to their age and strength. Just and humane condition of work and maternity relief. That's what where we have adopted Factories Act and the other important legislations and Maternity Benefit Act for the ladies. Government shall take every step by suitable legislation or in any other way to secure the participation of employees in the management of undertaking. That means that's how the safety committees have been constituted, and where the members of the management as well as the workers, they form the committee where the workers, problems relating to the health and safety, they are discussed, and that's how the workers' participation in safety management has been included in it, in lines with the recommendation of the ILO. This I have already told you. There are 3 schedules attached to the Factories Act, you all know. First schedule provides for list of the factories involving hazardous processes. Second schedule provides for permissible level of toxic chemicals in the work environment for 8 hours. And the third schedule provides for list of notifiable occupational diseases, which are how many diseases are there which are notifiable? 29. Third schedule mein. This is a UK statistics. Number of fatalities per 10 to the power 8 man hours. There is a fatal accident frequency rate. In the year 1974, it was seen that the UK industries, there were 4 fatalities for every 10 to the power 8 man hours worked in general engineering industry. Whereas in construction workers, the number of workers that died for every 10 to the power 8 man hours worked during the year was 67. In chemical industries, which always take a huge toll, whenever accident occurs, the fatal accident frequency rate was found to be only 3.5. Why was it so? Can you imagine? Why it was so, 3.5 in chemical industry, where it should have been the most, the highest number.
They follow the rules and regulations.
Anything else?
And they were taking care of like all the safety measures.
Anything else? There is greater awareness amongst the workers employed in chemical industries as compared to the workers employed in other type of industries. That is the reason why fatal accident frequency rate in case of chemical industries is the lowest. I'm sorry I'm a bit fast, Historical background I have already told you. Now we come to the important definitions we should know, when we talk of Factories Act and its applicability. Factory means premises. Anyone who understands this particular word, factory means premises, where 10 or more workers are working or were working on any one day during the last 12 months and preceding 12 months, in any part of which a manufacturing activity is carried out with the aid of power or is ordinarily so carried on. That means 10 workers are employed, power is used and the manufacturing activity is carried on. Or 20 or more workers are employed, power is not being used, but manufacturing activity is carried out. That is also a factory within the meaning of the Factories Act. There also the Factories Act is applicable. Or factory is notified under Section 85 of the Factories Act, 48 by the state government by notification in the official gazette. This is a special Section 85 under Factories Act which empowers state government to extend the provision of the Factories Act irrespective of the number of workers employed therein. That is because Factories Act means where 10 or more workers work with the aid of power and a manufacturing activity is carried out, 20 or more works without the aid of power and a manufacturing activity is carried out. But those factories, hazardous factories, where number of workers is less, say for example some auto manufacturing unit is there where asbestos is being used. But asbestos is hazardous, you know that? It can cause asbestosis to the workman for over a prolonged period. So that means that kind of industry, but because the number of workers employed there is how many? Less than 10. So Factories Act is not applicable. So should those workers be not protected? This Section 85 takes care of that. And state government is empowered to extend the provision of the Factories Act by issuing a special notification to extend the provision of the Factories Act irrespective of the number of workers employed therein. That means, but it will not be pick and choose. I mean, you can just extend it to one factory. State means all units employing less than, say, I am taking the example of asbestos manipulating units. All units which manipulate or use asbestos for manufacturing activity employ less than 10 workers, whether with power or without power. They all will be covered under Factories Act, irrespective of the number of workers employed therein, and provision of the Factories Act would be applicable there. Similarly, in Delhi, we actually extended it to all chemical units, to all asbestos manufacturing units, and also small-scale steel rolling mills employing less than 10 workers with the aid of power. All these we used when I was with the Factories Inspectorate in Delhi. So this is clear, but does not include what? A mine covered under the Mines Act 1952. Why? See, Mines Act is enforced by central government. At present, I am talking of the today's date. Mines Act will also form part of the OSH 2020, you know, when the new code comes into practice. Mine covered under Mines Act 1952, Factories Act was not applicable. Why? What was the reason? Factories Act is enforced by the state government. Mines Act is enforced by the central government, right? Suppose a mine and a workshop. Mine has got workshop also. Workshop is located on the ground floor. Mine is underground, or it can be open cast mine also. In case a worker is employed in the mine, he comes for repair or maintenance of his equipment to the workshop on ground floor. There he meets with an accident. Then what happens? In that case, because he is a worker of mines, but he has come to the workshop. Workshop is covered under Factories Act because 10 or more workers are employed with the aid of power. Mine is covered under Mines Act where Factories Inspector does not have any jurisdiction. So what happens in that case? Worker meets with an accident. Worker being a worker of Mines Act, mines, he is not covered under ESIC. Workers employed in workshop, he is covered under ESIC, whereas mine worker, their act was that ESIC was not applicable there. So there was always conflict of interest. That is why the government said that mine covered under Mines Act will not be covered. Eating place and restaurant, they were also taken out. Railway running sheds, you know that railway running sheds. There are two terms in railways, running shed and running room. Running shed is the place where the railway engine takes rest. And running room is the place where the railways crew like TTs, guard, drivers, they take rest. So they are also out of the purview because you cannot enforce working hours there correctly. ट्रेन आ रही है तो 12-12 घंटे लेट आ रही है सर्दियों में, तो आप कैसे तो आप चलान ही लगाते रहेंगे. Railways have got their own act. तो mobile unit belonging to armed forces and electronic data processing unit operating independently. These are not covered under Factories Act. अब इसमें कौन सा आता है आपका? Electronic data processing में? Can you tell me some example? Call centers. ये इन पे भी Factories Act नहीं लगता. क्यों नहीं लगता? The reason is very obvious, you know. क्यों नहीं लगता? क्योंकि देखिए वहाँ पर हमारा क्या होता है कि because you know that we are operating electronic data processing unit or the call centers for foreign, we get business from foreign countries, Western countries for example. They all work in their daytime when we are having night in India. In that case, what happens is the ladies are employed in large number in call centers, and ladies cannot be employed beyond 6 p.m. and before 6 a.m. So there was problem. The if Factories Act is applicable, then ladies will not be permitted. There will be violation of the law. So they said, okay, where Factories Act is not applicable, Shop Act is applicable, and Shop Act permits ladies to work at night. So that's why they have been kept out of the purview. But I tell you one thing, if the electronic data processing unit or computer center is part of the factory which is covered under Factories Act, for example, refinery is there, or some large engineering industry is there, where everything is operated digitally, there that computer center will form part of the factory, and there the workers employed in the computer center would be covered under the Factories Act. But not the call centers or the electronic, that's why I say electronic data processing unit operating independently. Now another very important definition is occupier, that you should understand, that who is responsible for enforcement of the Factories Act. I've got enough time, I think.
Yes.
Yeah? I'll take 15-20 minutes more.
Yes, you've got 10.
Occupier, very important definition. Occupier means the person. Occupier means person who has ultimate control over the affairs of the factory. In the case of a firm or association, is one of the partners. In the case of a company, any one of the directors shall be deemed to be the occupier. So here you should be very careful, because you are all from the factories. So I must tell you how you should be careful about it. What normally happens is people just sign and they send the papers for grant of license. You should be very careful as to which director should be nominated or should be resolved to act as occupier for the purposes of the Factories Act. It has to be one of the directors. If you don't pass any resolution and don't nominate any one of the directors, then either any one of the directors or all of the directors, they can be prosecuted. Because then it becomes the pick and choose power of the inspector of factories. He can pick and choose anyone, or if he finds some Mr. X taking care of the factory at the time of his inspection, he can prosecute him. So that's why always pass a resolution, resolve that Mr. ABC, director of the company, is hereby authorized to act as occupier for the purposes of Factories Act. That is in your interest. Otherwise, deemed to be means it is pick and choose power of the inspector. In the case of a company, factory owned or controlled by the central government, you know the procedure for that. Say, for example, we have a railway workshop. In that case, the nodal ministry is railway ministry. They will actually nominate the occupier. So we need not go into those. The manufacturing process. This is I have taken from the Act only, so you know that. Worker means employed directly or through an agency, including a contractor, with or without the knowledge of the principal employer. Anyone who is found working in the factory at the time of inspection, irrespective of the fact that whether he has come to meet someone or not, that is immaterial. Anyone who is found working at the time of inspection, he is a worker for the purposes of the factory law. The competent person is another term that you should understand. There are material handling equipments, there are compressors, there are confined spaces in the factories. So who should be the person recognized to certify? Though I asked one question from Mr. Jason Wood in the meeting about the certification of the high-powered machines. He said that according to the European Union and the American standards, they have the person. Similarly, we have competent person here in India. A person or an institution recognized as such by the Chief Inspector for the purposes of carrying out test, examination, and inspection required to be done in a factory under the provision of the Act. Having regard to his, we have the rules having regard to his qualification, experience. Normally, suppose you have electrically operated overhead traveling cranes, or you have cranes, or you have material handling equipment, then you have air compressors which operate at high pressure, more than atmospheric pressure. They have to be testified by the competent person, and the competent person is defined as such. He is appointed by the Chief Inspector of Factories of the state. Now here one thing you should note: the Chief Inspector of Factories, Delhi, if he certifies that Mr. ABC is the person to testify these equipments, then he cannot go and do that in Noida or in Haryana or Punjab. For testifying the equipments in Haryana, Punjab or elsewhere, apart from Delhi, the certificate of competency must be obtained from the Chief Inspector of Factories of that state. Because Chief Inspector of Factories of the state, the Factories Inspectorate is a social legislation which is enforced by the state governments. Hazardous process, very important provision. This provision did not exist when Bhopal happened. Hazardous process means any process or activity in relation to an industry specified in first schedule, where unless special care is taken, the raw material used therein or intermediate or finished good byproducts, waste or effluents thereof would cause material impairment to the health of the workers or result in pollution of the general environment. See, for example, you have caustic chlorine plant where the chlorine is manufactured from brine solution. What happens in that case? In that case, the final product is what? Chlorine, or if you have earlier we used to have mercury cells. through that we were actually manufacturing chlorine. So mercury cells were also very dangerous, because in that case, though we used to have the product chlorine, but the mercury cells, they used to give off the mercury which that used to flow, that used to actually go out of the machines, and then through sewer it used to merge with the outside the drain or in the river, wherever it was. And mercury is one very pollutant. They are highly toxic. So that's why, it may cause material impairment to the health of the persons or result in pollution of the general environment unless special care is taken. So such a process is hazardous process. I was talking to L&T people about few days back, and then to the Ministry of Labour also, Chief Labour Commissioner, in connection with some queries they had. So I asked them, I said, you have defined hazardous processes. There are 5 processes. They are roof falling and all that, confined space, etc., etc. But you have not defined them. How you have identified that these are the only processes? But Factories Act is that way, it is complete act in itself. That's why I said it is the most comprehensive piece of legislation. This is, of course, this is for the general duties of occupier, Every occupier shall ensure, so far as reasonably practicable, the health, safety and welfare of workers. Provision and maintenance of plant and system of work in the factory that are safe and without risk. Then arrangements in the factory for ensuring safety and absence of risk to the health and condition. These are the duties of occupier. You must have seen when factory inspector files prosecution, he always takes the shelter of Rule 7, this Section 7A also. Because these are the general duties of occupier. Provision of such information, instruction, training and supervision as are necessary to ensure the health and safety of all workers. Jason would also stressed on the training of the people, training and communication, very important. So here also, it's such information, instruction, training. I mean, the training has to be tailor-made. For a worker to work at a particular place, he must be trained according to that, because he needs that only. And how can you do that? How can you infuse in workers the sense of stability and the sense of working safely at the workplace? By conducting what? In the morning when he reports for duty, pep talks. You can just tell him that what he is going to do today is this, and he has to ensure all these safe operating procedure, or these are the kind of procedure he must follow, so to be safer at the workplace. Maintenance of all places of work in the factory in condition that is safe and without risk to the health, and in provision and maintaining of such means of access to and egress from. Access to and egress from means confined spaces. You have confined space like you can call sewer line. There is a confined space, very dangerous also. So it's about that, all these things, the provision and maintenance of monitoring of such work environment, where the hazardous chemicals are being used. You should monitor the concentration of such work, chemicals in the work environment for 8 hours duration. Whether the section, the limits given in this second schedule is not violated. Because if it is more than that limit, then the worker's health may get deteriorated or it may get affected. Then health and safety policy that the management has to prepare, because health and safety policy is what? Health and safety policy. Health and safety policy means the intent and commitment of the top management towards providing a healthier and safer work environment at workplace. Now we come to important provisions. We'll just go through it. Section 11, Section 6, 8 and 10, that I think we need not spend time on it, because it is for obtaining license, etc., that you know better. Section 11 is cleanliness. The stress is always laid on cleanliness, as to what the cleanliness should be like, And cleanliness actually comes, it comes from within, it comes from your culture, it comes from your, the system that prevails in the factory. I was traveling once by the, this train, Shatabdi Express to Gwalior in the morning. That train, because it was February time, and the train was, because the last day, the train must have arrived a bit late. So naturally the morning also, because it was foggy day, so the trains were to leave New Delhi railway station a bit later. So but we reached on time at before 6 o'clock. The train was to leave at 7:30. We saw, the people at this, because this was full, platform number 1 was completely full, and the people were having water, having tea, and they were throwing all bottles, etc., everything on the track. I saw one white boy, an Englishman, must be going to Agra or some place. He had some chocolate or some biscuits, etc., and he took out from the pocket, ate it, and then that wrapper he kept back in his. He did not throw it on the platform. Our Indian brothers were throwing everything on platform or on the track itself. That is called cleanliness. It comes from within. It comes from the. Section 12 is disposal of trade waste and effluent. As a result of the manufacturing process being carried out, if trade waste and effluents are generated, you must see to it that they are not, thrown away in the sewer, or they are not disposed of, which may, result in pollution. That's done. I have a very good example for this, the disposal of trade waste and effluents. My father was a great devotee of Jamna, Every Sunday during summer, we used to go for having holy bath in Jamna in Delhi. I live in Kamla Nagar. From there, we used to walk down in the morning, have dip in Jamna, go to the temple, and then. So there, at that time, normally happens, when we take bath in a holy river, उसके बाद में क्या होता है, एक हम coin डाल देते हैं river में, just as a matter of honor to the river or some whatever you may call it. It's a religious feeling. So my father used to give me, 1 paisa or 2 paisa at that time. I used to drop it in the river. I could see the coin sitting on the bed of the river from the bank of the river. That was so clean was the river. Today, can you see can you see Jamna today? It's an open drain, it's not a river. So that is the condition, what has happened. So trade waste and effluents, if they are properly maintained, ventilation should be there. Overcrowding, your dust and fume as a result of the manufacturing process, if dust and fumes are generated, you must see to it that they are trapped and taken outside, but not thrown in the air. They are collected separately. Air, if you throw them in the air, then what happens is it's a violation of the Air Pollution Act. So collect it separately, dispose it off. But they should be they should not be within the breathing zone of the worker. Worker should be protected by all means. That is the idea. Overcrowding, 500 cubic feet of space must be available in the factory for every worker. Drinking water facility should be there, you know that. Latrines and urinals, fencing of machinery as per section 21. Section 28 is hoist and lift, very important provision. Every hoist and lift should be of good mechanical construction, sound material and adequate strength, properly maintained, and shall be thoroughly examined by a competent person. Competent person, as we defined in the beginning, by the Chief Inspector of Factories, he appoints for a particular state. At least once in every period of 6 months, and a register shall be kept containing the prescribed particulars of every such examination. Every hoistway and liftway shall be sufficiently protected, and the cage of every hoist or lift used for carrying persons should be fitted with a gate on either side, and every gate shall be fitted with an interlocking or other efficient device. I share with you one experience, a very fatal accident that happened in Delhi, unfortunately. And that was during my tenure only, when I was Chief Inspector of Factories. There in a well-known newspaper factory, 5-6 floors were there, 2 basement and upper basement, lower basement, and 4 or 5 floors on the ground floor, upper floors. It was, it was a lift which was being used for carrying material from one floor to the higher floors or higher floor to the lower floors. It was provided with collapsible gates, to कैंची type gate होते हैं ना. It was not automatic gate, but कैंची type gates. It was provided with that, and one fine morning, the lift was on the top floor. The job to clear the, the pit where the lift comes and sits, it is provided with helical springs where the car comes and sits over it so that it does not get shocked. So that lift was on the top floor. The sweeperess who was given the duty of cleaning the pit, she says the lift is on the top floor, let me just do it. So she carries her broom, and with the broom she clears it. She opens the gate with her hand, who goes inside, sweeps it with the broom, and then when she finishes the job, the lift starts traversing downwards. And what results? The lift comes and sits on her back and she gets crushed and died at the spot. Why? See, when the lift is on the top floor, how could the lady open the door? And if the doors were open, then how the lift could start transcending downwards? Because it was not fitted with interlocking device, or if the interlocking device was fitted, it was not working all right. You have seen metro, very good example of interlocking device. The doors open only when the metro is at the stop, and the metro will start only when the doors are clean, whether that's screen doors or whether they are normal doors.
Sorry, we need to move forward. Can you please summarize it in another 5 steps?
Okay.
Yes.
I'm up to only section 28 anyway. This is crane. Pressure plant, etc. This is the excessive weights limits. Compulsory medical exemption 35 provides for this. 36 precaution against dangerous fumes. I'll just do this.
Yes, yes.
Because dangerous in confined place. You have seen, that so many times you have read in the paper that people went into the sewer line. The sweepers especially, when they were cleaning the sewer line, they inhaled toxic gases and they died at the spot. NHRC actually made us one of the parties to this case, because Municipal Corporation Act does not provide for safety in confined spaces. This is a confined space. So what is the provision for that? If any worker has to enter the confined space, he must, first of all, the place must be certified by the competent person that it is safe for workers to work in. And such a person should wear a breathing apparatus and a belt securely attached to a rope, free end of which is held by a person outside. In case the worker gives a signal that I am feeling somewhat agitated, or there is some problem with me, I am unable to bear the atmospheric contamination, so that person can be pulled out of it. And portable electric light should not be more than. So anyway, this example I cannot. I'll just talk of. Safety officer, you know that. This qualification, everything has been laid down in the Factories Act. Then Chapter 4A provides for all this important. What is important I would like to discuss with you is about the accidents. Because this is something which you should know. Accidents are part of the manufacturing activity in the industry. Now, notice of certain accidents. If any worker, in case accident can be fatal or non-fatal. In case of fatal accident, when any accident or dangerous occurrence specified in schedule which results in the death of a person, or which result in such bodily injury to any person and is likely to cause his death, takes place in a factory, what you should do immediately, अगर किसी की death हो जाए, immediately notice should be sent to DM, SHO, and the relative of the injured person, and the notice should be confirmed in form number 18 within 12 hours to the Chief Inspector of Factories. Now, and the question arises: if a worker does not meet with if it's a non-fatal accident, for example, in that case, if the report is to be sent in form number 18 within 24 hours. After a span of 48 hours. If a worker has met with a non-fatal accident, he does not report for duty for 48 hours, then a report within 24 hours thereafter must be sent to the Inspector of Factories. Otherwise, if he returns within 48 hours, then no problem, because he is covered under ESIC. He will get every benefit from there. Notice of certain disease. Occupational disease is another factor, which affects the life of the workers, which worker is not aware of. And this is one thing which can be diagnosed only with the specialized doctors who possess the qualification of Associate Fellowship in Industrial Health. Because, if a worker has contracted asbestosis, silicosis, bichinosis or pneumoconiosis, etc., then what happens on the prima facie, doctor will say you go for X-ray. and X-ray will show that there is something wrong with the lungs. He will be diagnosed as tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is not a notifiable occupational disease. So in that case, what will happen? He will be diagnosed for tuberculosis, and the treatment for tuberculosis will be given to him, but he will not respond to it. Actually, he is suffering from some other disease, which only the specialized, highly trained doctors like Dr. Florence, because he has undergone AFIS, so he understands this better. They will be able to diagnose that yes, this man is suffering from this disease by studying his occupational history and then diagnosing it. So that actually, that has to be seen properly, because occupational disease, first of all, it is not diagnosed. When diagnosed, it already very late. And now the responsibility has been placed on medical practitioners also. They should report. So all these things. I think I should stop here. Should I? Yes. There is very important, this is also, but anyway, I'm leaving it here. Yes. Thank you very much for giving me patient hearing. There was a lot to be covered, but as I said in the beginning, the Factories Act cannot be covered in half an hour. Half an hour is nothing, it's just peanut, I should say. So thank you very much.